Now we're going to have on the show a good friend of mine, a good friend of Erie County, someone who has done a lot, in my opinion, for Erie County, my friend Mickey Kearns. So let me give you a little background about Mickey. Mickey is a lifelong resident of South Buffalo. He graduated from Bishop Timon High School, got an associate degree at Erie Community College, and then a Bachelor of Arts in Political Science from Canisius College. In 2006, he was elected and served as Buffalo Common Council in the South District from January of 2006 to March of 2012, when he was elected to the Assembly. So he served in the Assembly, in the New York Assembly, the 142nd District, from 2012 through December of 2017, when he became the Erie County Clerk, and he has served us well as the Erie County Clerk from 2017. So, Mickey, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Ralph. It's an honor to be on your show.
There's so much to talk about with you, Mickey. You're in the news quite a bit.
Sure.
Where do you want to start? I mean, I've got a bunch of issues I'd like to talk to you about.
Sure.
That includes the mortgage tax, the space in your county clerk's office, just a number of things, pistol permits. Where do we start with you?
Well, first, I think it's important. Thank you for having me on the show. I think people don't understand the importance of the Erie County Clerk's office. We're the business office of Erie County. You know that. The legal community knows that because you utilize the office, our registrar's office. But the county clerk, even though it's a ministerial office, it means I don't vote on legislation or make laws like when I was on the Common Council or in the New York State Assembly. The interesting thing is the county clerk, number one, he's clerk of the courts. So technically under the New York State Constitution, I am a constitutional officer of the state. Not too many people, there's no other county official that can say that. I also I oversee all of the pistol permit applications. We accept them. We partner with our great Sheriff Garcia, and another great guy, Judge Bowler, who's our licensing officer. I run all of the auto facilities, our auto bureaus, our DMVs, and in addition to that, finally, I wish I would have known I had all these duties before I ran for the office. I'm just kidding, but finally, as you know, very important office, our registrar's office, all real estate transactions. So really, the county clerk has a very important position. We are the protector of documents, the keeper of the records. So I don't think too many people understand what the county clerk does. Probably the easiest is when they come into a DMV, they may register their vehicle, they may register their boat, an ATV, a snowmobile. They see that, but unless you're in a certain profession and you're applying for a certain license, they may not know what the clerk does.
Well, you're a source of income to the county. I mean, somebody buys a house, they typically go to the clerk's office to do that closing. But
Sure.
You're a major source of income to the county of Erie.
It's interesting you say that. Recently, I was before the legislature talking about our end-of-the-year budget, where we are at. And Legislator Mills, he used the term, we are the cash cow of Erie County. And I want to thank all the legislators because, once again, without their partnership, we couldn't do those things. Innovative things that I've done, changing how you get a DMV transaction, changing how your pistol permit application is accepted, modernizing the office. We're going to have new technology, a new software system. So it just is, really a great office. I really enjoy being county clerk. I've learned so much, as you stated. We reported to the legislature. We'll take mortgage tax. We're $7 million above last year's mortgage tax, and we're only into October because we're 1 month behind. Our revenue through our audit bureau is through the roof, and that's through hard work. We work with our dealers. I'll give you an example for West Her. We do approximately 72,000 transactions a year on behalf of West Her, over 100 for all of our local dealers. We do the registration. So I work very hard. I understand this is the business office of Erie County. We don't always get that respect and appreciation. for that, but I do appreciate when the legislature supports us and really helps us when we go and make presentations to really modernize the office. I mean, government's always behind the private sector, and that's my role. I really enjoy being the leader of nearly 185 employees.
This is the office that Kathy Hochul once held, and then when she finally left that office, we found boxes and boxes that were filled with checks and filled with documents that needed to be recorded, that she failed to cash the checks and failed to record the documents. That certainly doesn't happen under your watch.
No, we really do our best to do that. Fortunately, we did have a situation where we had an employee breach the public trust. We worked with the district attorney's office, the controller's office, and that person's in jail now. But it's a rarity that something like that happens. I'm a very transparent person. The office financially has never run better. And with the modernization of our software, it's going to help us sort of bridge the gap on some of those things. I really think that, we work on a daily basis. I'm in the office every day. I meet with the staff. We've got a great team. If you don't have great people working for you, the analogy I used to like to use is you can be a great coach, but if you don't have great players, we've got great players. We've got experienced people. I work with them. I communicate with them. And as you know, and many of the attorneys know, I always use the example of Douglas Jamal. When something has to go on record, it has to go on record by a certain time. In the financial industry, they don't care if someone's off that day or someone's having a bad day. I mean, it has to be done. It's the most professional office in Erie County, the most front-facing office. So we generate a tremendous amount of revenue. And something, Ralph, that people don't understand, when not only the mortgage tax, but the transfer tax, which I call the road tax, all of that money goes to help pave the roads in Erie County. We send that money, we collect it in that transaction, we send it over to Erie County. It is such an important office that, financially, if something were to occur, something like COVID, like it did, and we handled it, we didn't close down, we stayed open, and the financial community understood how important the clerk's office is to their livelihood.
Mickey Brascagino here. Why don't you also explain to the people listening the advantage to the county to register your car at one of your several locations as opposed to registering your car and license plate stuff for your car directly to Albany? Go ahead. And it has an advantage to the people in Western New York.
Sure. We'll use the Southgate Plaza location. When I came into office, we had a very small location at Erie Community College. We built that location out. We have a dealer division, we have an outreach center, and we have an auto bureau. And we modernized it. We cleaned it up. If you used to remember going into the DMV, there were really, cloth chairs that were really disgusting. No disrespect, but they were, we modernized the chairs, we modernized the facilities, and we modernized the process. You make an appointment now, you get in, you're treated just like you're going to the doctor's office. You go in, you get out. And the reason why, Russ, it's important to do your transaction in person is if you go in there, you begin the transaction with the county clerk's office. And if there is an issue and there is a problem, and they sometimes happen, or you do not have proper documentation, we handle it right there. We contact Albany. We've got very good contacts in Albany, good relationship, working with the former Assemblyman Mark Schroeder, the commissioner, and his team, and we get it done. You walk out, we work with you. If you put it in the mail, I can't guarantee that that's going to be handled immediately. It could go into the black hole of Albany. If we've all done that, we've had an issue with Albany, and who do you talk to? You can't get anybody on the phone, so we do get a percentage of that transaction, and it's important to come in. And finally, it's important to know that this isn't your parents or your grandparents' DMV. I like to tell the story. I was out at one of our locations, and I had a woman look for me. She was very upset, and I said, what is the problem? What is the issue? And she said, I planned an hour here. My husband dropped me off. I have a book. I was going to have some reading time away from my husband, but you got the transaction done so fast. I got to call him to come pick me up immediately. And I said, that's okay. You can hang out for a little bit. You never hear people complaining that the transaction got done so soon. So this is a new transaction, a new way to get your work done at the DMV, and I think people love it.
So my office, my law office, we do over 200 closings a year. So we're at the clerk's office that many times. And I know from the real estate lawyer, Bob Batista, of my office, and from our paralegal, Robin, that it's an efficient office. You go there, you can get the work done when it needs to be done, and you can get in and get out, which is important for lawyers and their clients who have to pay lawyers by the hour. But we just had a closing, $66.5 million, probably the largest, one of the, if not the largest, one of the largest closings this year. And you were very accommodating. Your office staff was very accommodating. It was a difficult closing. It had a lot of different issues, but successfully closed, and that closing paid hundreds of thousands of dollars in mortgage tax.
You know what? You're exactly right, Ralph. Every important is transaction to us. That transaction was very, very important. But as you stated, for the person that comes in who does a real estate closing and they're buying their first house and they don't understand the process, 1% of mortgage tax goes back, to the county. We get what's called a mortgage tax expense. So we work with New York State. We have the authorization to get expenses. It's interesting because I was criticized by the county controller for not taking enough or too much in mortgage tax expenses. He could also take mortgage tax expenses, but he doesn't choose to. So, it's an important office. We've got great people, and it's very technical, as you know. The legal field is not an easy field. New York State is not a state that grants a lot of authority to the title companies like some states do. It's considered a legal transaction. So we have the legal community in. We work very closely with the Bar Association. And, just to go back, as you state, we close out all of our transactions every single night. We double check them. We scan them over. We get them to the bank as quickly as possible. So there's no checks waiting there at the end of the night and maybe what was done in previous administrations. We really are very aware of that. I have a chief financial officer. I've got multiple people for segregation of duties looking at these transactions at the end of the night. As you stated, we want to be helpful because it helps Erie County, but it helps the business community.
Mickey, you mentioned the software program that you purchased recently. How has that helped improve the efficiency of your office?
Well, we're in the conversion stage, so right now we're training the staff under that new software system. Dave Swartz, who was the county clerk, was the last county clerk. I give him a lot of credit for upgrading the system. He sort of moved us into the technology area, but previous to that, there's never been a clerk that's really said, look, if we're going to update this. I did a review of the system. We really badly needed to do that, to keep up with the times, right? People are doing more online transactions, which is fine. We're encouraging through New York State and NISEP and our criminal division, we're making it mandatory to do online transactions over there. So we're very aware of that. We want to make sure that we have the best system, a system that can handle it for the next 10 years. Also, too, we're trying to protect the autonomy of the office. As I stated earlier, we're the record keeper for Erie County and for New York State. I was just recently at a conference in Rochester just for a day. I drove down there for the day, and I was talking to some of my fellow clerks, just reiterating to them what goes on in Erie County. The lax handling and overseeing of records by the polling card administration. They don't think that this office deserves to have an independent elected official. They want someone who they can control, and we're going to have to work on that. And this new software system will be able, instead of being on a county server, and I conveyed this to my fellow county elected officials, I conveyed this to the county attorney or to the district attorney, to the sheriff, that they have sensitive records, and we have sensitive records with sensitive information that should remain protected. When you have a county executive who could, or a county attorney, just give this information away, which they did, without any without any notice to that elected official, now going forward, when we convert, Russ, we will go to the cloud. I will not have to worry about that anymore, and taxpayers don't have to worry about that.
So, Mickey, I know you've started a lot of initiatives in that office. Sure. Zombie homes, for example, a number of different kinds of initiatives, updating so that we have access. So from my law office, we now have access to the county clerk records, which certainly wasn't the case before. There's a lot of initiatives that you started, yet there are issues with the county executive and, acting as if he has control of your office, and you're an independent elected official.
Sure, and that's the thing. I think this started, I know how politics works. Next year will be my 20th year as an elected official in politics, so no one's saying that we understand how the way politics works, but when you have duties and responsibilities, as I stated, as a clerk of the court, and one day we came in and we had someone changing the locks in one of our rooms, one of our important rooms adjacent to our conference room. I asked the young man what he was doing, and he said he's changing the locks on order of the Commissioner of Department of Public Works. I did not receive any notification. To me, I felt as though the room was being seized. There was a law back in the 80s that gave the clerk the authority to lease surplus space, and we do that with many of our title companies. However, I thought it might have been a mistake. I called the Commissioner of Public Works at that time. He stated it wasn't a mistake, that the Buffalo News was being removed. They were in 92 Franklin, where our building is, but they were being removed by the courts. They needed a place to go. And I stated that this is not the proper room. We have supplies for the office. In addition to that, we had important documents, pistol permit documents, files. I've been doing my best, as you know, to scan and go digitize the office as fast as I can. But that's not an easy thing to do, and it's not a cheap thing to do. But we're doing it. I think I've done the most digitizing than any other clerk prior to me. And the young man changed the locks on an office that I had control over. So I, made a couple more phone calls. I reached out to the county executive. I drafted a letter. I told him that this, I hope, was a mistake. And in writing, the county executive sent me a letter and said, we had an obligation to the Buffalo News. And I said, wait a second. This is a private entity. And, they put it in writing, as you know, as a lawyer. And when someone says you have an obligation to a private entity, I thought it was a gift of public funds. And we've been working with the legislature. I know they're working on a policy because it's a very dangerous precedent. And I try to convey that to the legislature. Anytime these things happen and there's not a correction, as you said, as an independently elected official, the legislature is an independently elected body. The reason why these elected officials are independent and separate, because we don't want collusion. We want independence. We want to give the taxpayers the best choices. And unfortunately, the Buffalo News, and they sort of pivoted and said, well, now it's a media room. They seized this room. The Department of Public Works removed all of our files. We were not notified. They did it after work in the dead of night, almost like a Plummer-style Richard Nixon break-in. And they moved these files. They will not secure. I cannot say with certainty if they went through those files. So it's very concerning. And we've been working with the legislature. I've been communicating with them. And they've conveyed to me that they do believe that there needs to be a policy where the county executive can't unilaterally come in and take space away from an elected official, especially an important part of the office where, Ralph, you mentioned the Registrar's Division. We kept important documents in there for real estate transactions where we partnered with M&T Bank. Thank God they did it on a Thursday because those documents were picked up on a Wednesday. Those workers, I don't blame them. They were just following orders. They just threw all of that information and moved all of those cabinets into the adjacent office. It's an old courtroom. our conference room, and the judge had an office in there, and we have an adjoining door. So to me, it's just very concerning where we have a county executive who believes that, in order to get good press, you owe something to the media, and I think that's really improper, and I think it's wrong.
Well, to me, clearly he was trading space for the Buffalo News for the reports he gets out of the Buffalo News. They pump him up all the time. To me, that's exactly what he was doing, and certainly I see you as an independent office. I see that you should have control over the space that you have. Not only are you the keeper of deeds and mortgages and those types of things, but you're also the keeper of court records that are very important and should be confidential. Divorce decrees. There's a lot of records that you keep that have a confidentiality that only certain people, the parties themselves or their lawyers, should have access to.
And mental health records, as you know, when you apply for a pistol permit, you get a background check. Or many people, they may have done something when they were younger and they regret it, 20, 30 years ago. Well, if you do not disclose that, that could be an automatic denial of that application. So we got a great, really great person who's in that office, Judge Bowler. And he takes all those things into consideration. Over 40 years of legal experience, I never questioned him. However, those documents have to remain confidential. You mentioned divorce decrees. They should not be looking at that. And recently, I've been criticized because I have not granted certain entities access to those records. And the Poloncarz administration treats confidentiality very cavalier. The commissioner of DISS works for the county executive, and recently, just took records from our software and passed them on to the county attorney, who passed them on to a third party. Well, I said that was wrong. I thought it was analogous to someone breaking into the office. If someone broke into our office, took files, and gave them to someone, I would think it was a crime. Now, I say this once again to the legislature, and I know when you're sitting there, you don't think it's ever going to happen to you. But be wary that when these policies come, these are policies that could happen, and it could happen to you in the future. Investigations by third parties and outside entities when they don't have that authority. So they've really walked the gray line, the Poloncarz administration, and it's all political.
Mickey, you're talking about information, some of which is not available to the public and some which might
Correct.
be. So you have a Freedom of Information office.
Correct.
Do you have a list of what's available and what's not available, either on your website? By the way, can you give your website so our listeners can copy that and
Sure.
see for themselves
it's
what
really
you have?
easy.
Go ahead.
Sure. It's erie.gov/clerk. Erie.gov/clerk, and then depending if you want information on the Audit Bureau, it would be erie.gov/clerk, the Audit Bureau. It's very easy to navigate that website, but it's a great question. We have in New York State a committee on open government. I believe in transparency and openness. However, under the law, and we have to follow the law, certain interagency discussions are protected. And the reason why they're protected is because if someone wants to make a comment, and the FOIL law is very specific, where you do not have to generate reports, but if you have access to data and those reports are generated, you have to release that information. And in many instances, emails are FOILable. So we have a FOIL officer. All county elected officials have a FOIL officer that they can put that request in. It has to be responded within 5 days. But once again, it really is, Russ, a case-by-case basis and what people are requesting. We take that under consideration, and usually, 99% of the time we compliant, unless it, like as Ralph said, unless it's something to deal with a divorce transaction or a law such as the SAFE Act, which protects people if they opt out and they don't want people to know that they have a pistol permit. We have to honor that because that's the law. So once again, we really take it on a case-by-case basis.
Mickey, when it comes to the information, if somebody applies for freedom of information that is available in your office and your freedom of information law designee refuses it, is there an appeal process, and who do they appeal to?
There is. Yeah, so every office has to have an appeal officer. So we're going through that now with the controller's office. There was some information that was redacted that we wanted to see it for an audit, and they redacted it. They were comments. So we're working on that. You appeal it to that appeal officer, and then once again, when that is appealed, it should automatically go to the New York State Committee on Open Government.
I'm just curious as far as that's concerned. So, a mortgage information that's filed, for example, if I wanted to get a look at my own mortgage, I would assume I would be able to get that. But could I get your mortgage if I wanted to get it? Is that subject?
Those are public records.
Those are public records. And I even had when I was before the legislature, some of the, and this is not diminishing them, but some of them didn't know what was public, what is public. But as Ralph said, court records, criminal records. Then you're looking at, records dealing with, they could be expunged. There could be some type of hold by the court. We don't want those records getting into the public. And I know now there's legislation that they're talking about protecting judges and law enforcement, their anonymity because of what's been going on with certain things, attacks by individuals. We don't want their families in danger. So if that's passed, we'll follow the law. But once again, through the FOIL officer, you have to make that specific request, and we'll answer it. And we get FOILs every day on behalf of the office, and if it's something we can handle. But most of the documents are public records when it comes to your, to your mortgage, your deed. Yes, you can get access to that. Your taxes.
So those things are public records, but you, as the keeper of these records, you have to know, you have to differentiate, you have to be aware that certain of those public records, as we said, for example, divorce decrees, pistol
Correct.
Permits, are not to be placed out in the public. And so someone just coming in, taking over an office in your facility, that's certainly wrong. It's certainly wrong without your knowledge and your consent.
Yes, and if they wanted to have a discussion or a conversation, that's what politics is all about. First of all, that's what government's all about. You're supposed to talk to people. You're supposed to communicate with people. If they were looking for an office, we stated, we don't mind the press being there. I'm not against the press being in the building, but we had an adjacent space. That space was so important to us. The district attorney
trains their people.
Training ADA people. As soon as he found out that the press was going to be adjacent to that, he no longer uses that room. Well, there's a reason why, because when you're training new employees and you're talking about sensitive things, you might even be talking about policy that hasn't even been created yet, that you're thinking about talking about with your team. We do a lot of work in that office where we're doing personnel matters, which requires confidentiality. Someone could be going through a tough time, maybe a substance abuse problem. People just have a mental health issue. They require confidentiality, and I want to give them that. But if you have people who are adjacent to the room who could see who's coming into the room, who's leaving that room, it really, you lose that confidentiality aspect. Even though it's a government building, there is some private and confident conversations that you have to have, especially when it comes to policy, and especially when it comes to personnel.
So to me, we got to take a break, but to me, this is the county executive looking to tarnish you in some way because you're potentially someone who could reach that higher office. And so that is what they're purposely doing. I just want you to know, Mickey, that I'm enjoying sipping on my Planet Smoothie protein drink.
Oh, my God,
great. That I pick up every Saturday as I come into this studio. And I know your lovely wife, Stephanie, now has that location at Southgate Plaza. And
yes.
It's amazing. I mean, it's a healthy place to go to. So I just want to let people know.
Thank you. She's the brains of the couple. She's doing great. She's a young entrepreneur.
She is.
And I give her a lot of credit. So if you could stop in there, that would be great. Makes a great presence. She's very personable. And as you stated, it's all fresh fruit.
Yep.
I've been a customer prior to her owning that for 15 years, and I love it.
Yeah, I'm checking out the variety. So I get a different thing each time I go so I can see. But I've had many pleasurable drinks from there. I want to try some of the other concoctions that we have there. But I just wanted to let people know. So getting back to the clerk's office, Mickey, again, you've had, in my opinion, a lot of successes in terms of new things that you've done there. You've had a number of controversies brought about, mostly by Poland cars and the office to be. I think it's particularly because they know that you're someone capable of reaching higher office. But tell us more about the office, what you've accomplished, what you see, things to be done in this office.
So the first thing is the most front-facing portion of the office is the Auto Bureau. And as you noted, it wasn't always run as efficiently as it could be. We really made the dealers, I told you it's the business office, a priority. If you remember the red and green budget, when I became clerk, I was asking, I was asking these different dealers, why are they using other counties? So we had local businesses using other counties, and that money was going to those counties. And I was really upset about that. And a lot of them said, well, it's the process. Erie County takes too long to turn around the registration. So to let the viewers know, if you get a new car, you get what's called a temporary registration. Well, that final registration is done by the clerk's office. When I became clerk, it took about 40 days to get that done. And I got that down to about 5 days.
So look, I represented Daniel Chevrolet. That was a Chevrolet dealership for quite a while. I represented Jim Ball for quite a while. I have a good relationship with Scott Beeler, and I know how important this is, not just to those private enterprises, but to the economy of this area. And I know that they're happy as can be with the improvements that have been made.
No one, I gave them their own dealer division over at the Southgate Plaza, which they currently enjoy. So modernizing the office, new facilities, bringing appointments to the system, really generating revenue. Our outreach center over at the Southgate Plaza, I happened to run into the West Seneca supervisor. Matter of fact, I was visiting my lovely wife on Friday. I happened to be at the Auto Bureau, and I went over and got a smoothie, and I saw the supervisor there, and we were talking. We do passports on behalf of the State Department. We received one national award. We received one local award where we accept the passport, and we process that. Now, that doesn't seem like a big deal, but in many instances, many of the post offices were overrun. They're having a tough time finding employees. They're doing a great job on our behalf. But a passport transaction could take between a half hour and 40 minutes. So we opened up an outreach center. We've worked with our community. We're not looking to, poach business from the post office, but we're just providing an alternative. We have that, recently in the budget, we brought in new revenue, Ralph and Russ. This is new revenue, over $100,000 of new revenue because we have that center. We do pictures. We get money for accepting the application, and we provide a convenience. We're open Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. In addition to that, on Thursdays, we're open to 7 o'clock. So that's something that no other clerk has ever done. I want to give good customer service, and I think the future of government is bringing government closer to the people. And I think I've accomplished that with our outreach center. We're going to be opening a new one in the North Towns adjacent to our Eastern Hills location at the Eastern Hills Mall. So it's exciting. Everything is about balance. So the auto bureaus are new, they're fresh, we're making money. We were number one, Ralph and Russ, in the state of New York for real ID compliancy with 62%. These are New York State numbers. These aren't my numbers. 62%. The next county that was closest to us was at 51%, and our great friend in Niagara County had the same percentage, but obviously we're a bigger county. So the DMVs are paramount. Number two is, as you stated, making sure that we collect all of the revenue in our registrar's office. We're not having checks waiting there for weeks. We deposit them immediately. We give good customer service. We're working with the state on many of those different things. And here's something that, from my time in the assembly, it's value added. I really made it a priority. But when I was in Albany, I helped co-sponsor legislation, as you know, with the banks to make sure that, service providers and banks are held accountable when there is a vacant, abandoned house. We're now doing that to Erie County. Really, the banks are in compliance. They're following the law. They're doing great. There's very few banks that are not complying with the law that we helped pass. You know who's not in compliance? Erie County. Erie County is not foreclosing on people in a proper amount of time. They do not have a policy. It's a very arbitrary policy. If you're behind on your taxes, $3,500. And look I want to keep people in their homes. You don't even get a payment plan until you go into foreclosure. So I know the county executive doesn't like me talking about this, but I coined the term tax zombies. We've got a big issue in Erie County when it comes to foreclosures and taxes.
Mickey, you talked about digitizing your office, and that you're in that process now. What will that take to make it 100% digitized? Will it take additional software and physical equipment to store this information?
No. So right now, thanks to, as I stated, the legislature has been a great partner on this issue. We've secured the funding. We are in the process of doing that. It's called the conversion process. We're converting that. We're hopeful we'll have a full conversion by July, meaning right now our old system is running parallel with our new system. And we're hopeful that in July we'll be able to be a standalone place. And we're going to be offering new modern technology issues, even a way on how we charge our customers. It was so antiquated. We take something like Zillow, and people don't understand that Zillow, this billion-dollar corporation, they think, wow, Zillow has all this information. I go to Zillow. That's the same information that's in the Erie County Clerk's office. We provide Zillow through a contract with that information. Well, that contract was very old and antiquated, and they should be paying more. The taxpayers, those are the taxpayers' records, and we're going to update that. We're going to be going to the legislature in the future, whether it's Zillow, the Buffalo News, you see their real estate transactions. Those records are generated in the county clerk's office. Those don't come magically on the internet. So I'm trying to provide greater access for the public so they don't have to come downtown, pay for parking. Our pistol permit division has multiple locations where people can walk in, providing mobility, providing ease for people where they don't have to come down, coming to a really court building, a public building where there's security, almost like they're going into an airport. We want to keep our judges and our people safe. However, they can come into a public building. We'll use Alma. So they can walk in, get the pistol permit transaction done, add a gun, and they're on their way. No paying for parking. So I really think about a customer-centered approach as clerk. Every decision I make, I always think to myself, how is this going to impact the average person? How is it going to impact the customer? And if it's a good impact, I do it. If it's a bad impact, then I don't do it.
So for the most part, most people's involvement with government actually takes place through the county clerk's office. Either
Correct.
They come in for a real estate closing, they come in to register their vehicles, they come in to ask for a pistol permit. I mean, and so many other licenses and other types of things. People's interaction is with the clerk, and therefore the clerk is, in my opinion, the individual most responsive, or that needs to be most responsive to the electorate, and I certainly believe that you have been all of that.
You can't. One of the things when I really got to know the office, when I first started my first week, I was down. There were long lines at the registrar's office for people in the pistol permit office. Babies crying. I went to the auto bureau in Cheektowaga on a Saturday. When they used to call the number, they'd call people's number, and they would cheer. And I'll have to say this, and I say this publicly, and I'll be honest about it. After my first week in this office, I was like, what did I do? What type of job did I take? I mean, this is unbelievable. However, okay, tough times make tough people. And I'm not a guy, my dad was a tough guy. My mother was a tough woman. I wasn't going to shirk from this challenge, and we turned it around. And you don't turn around a ship quickly. It takes time. We're not a perfect office, but I'll tell you right now, I'll put my record up against anyone. And the county clerk, whoever they are, I can't be the county clerk forever, but whoever the county clerk of the future is, he or she better know, and I'll sit down with them, that this is not an office where you're sitting in your office putting your feet up all day. You're working. And I'm out in the community. We have multiple locations. We have, contact and dependence by the financial community, by the legal community, by the law enforcement community. Like, you better not think that this is an easy job. It's a tough job, and I hope someday, when I'm not the clerk, that the next person says, wow, they really made the office better for the taxpayers.
Well, look, I've dealt with that office I've been a lawyer now since February 1974, so that's 51 years. We've done at least 200 real estate transactions a year, so multiply that by 51. I've represented car dealerships, as I said, that needed your office. Certainly people who have gotten pistol permits. So through law offices, we have a lot of interaction with your office through the records, the divorce records and everybody's court records. You're the keeper of those. So I know how important that office is. And I can say from my experience over now 51 years that I've never seen the office run more efficiently. I've never had an easier time, or my people in my office have never had a more easy time to get things accomplished, to get things recorded, and to access what's there. So I certainly, and many of the lawyers I deal with that deal in the same type of practice, appreciate what you've done and the accomplishments that have been done in that office.
So in the last minute we have here, Mickey, is there something that you'd like to emphasize that you are looking to the future to, besides what we've talked to here, that you'd like to identify that we may not have covered yet?
Sure. Just maybe something informational, Russ. As you know, you're seeing a lot about Real ID. In order to fly domestically, you either need a passport, which you can get at the clerk's office, or you need a Real ID or enhanced license. So even though the enforcement date under the Trump administration was May 7th, in order to fly, you need to have some type of identification. You could still fly, but it's going to take you more time. You're taking a risk. We are still accepting applications for Real ID. We're processing them. Please make an appointment. If you have had a name change, you need a original birth certificate and your original Social Security card, or something that has the full Social Security number. If you have any questions, you can always stop into our outreach center at the South Beach Plaza. As I stated, we're not open in the North Towns yet. We will be soon. But you can contact us at 858-8864, and you get a live person.
Thank you very much. We'll see you all next week.